President Biden will speak about how the Inflation Reduction Act will lower prescription costs for seniors in Southern California later today.
He is also set to sign an executive order directing the Department of Health and Human Services to look at ways to combat high drug prices.
The president's trip to the West Coast comes as inflation continues to climb. The September Consumer Price Index showed consumer prices were up about 0.4% from August, and about 8.2% higher year over year. In Los Angeles yesterday, the president said he's working to bring down those prices.
Americans are squeezed by the cost of living. It's been true for years, and folks don't need a report to tell them they're being squeezed. Fighting this battle every day is a key reason why I ran for president of the United States. The way I think about it is the way my dad used to talk about it. And he'd say, you know, after the end of the month, when you get your paycheck, after the end of the month, you have enough to pay for everything you owe, all your bills, and would you have a little left for some breathing room, just a little bit of breathing room. And that's my view of what is important and critical.
President Biden will also travel to Portland, Oregon to make his case on lowering costs before returning to the White House. Now, let's bring in CBS News senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang. And I just want to take a quick moment to welcome you back from maternity leave. We've missed you, and it's a pleasure to have you back in the mix, Weijia.
Errol and Elaine, it is so great to be with you. This is actually my first hit since being back, and it's so exciting. I love seeing you, being with you, talking with you. I really did miss you guys too. Of course, I was a viewer when I was away, but it's good to be back here at the White House.
And I want to say viewers can head to your Instagram page to see your beautiful baby boy, Jack. We need every reason to smile these days, so I wanted to make sure we get that out the way. Now let's get to the business here. President Biden signing this executive order on prescription drug prices today. Just spin out how, for our viewers, that might help lower costs.
So this trip, this speech today is really more about, not only about what he's doing with this executive order, which is to direct the Department of Health and Human Services to look for even more ways to cut costs for Americans. It's also about really promoting what he has already done, right? So he will be talking extensively about all the things in the Inflation Reduction Act that have to do with prescription drugs and Medicare to help people make ends meet. For example, capping the cost of insulin for seniors at $35, or if companies raise their prices for drugs faster than the inflation rate, to make them pay a Medicare rebate, or to give the opportunity for Medicare to negotiate for high prescription drug costs for the first time ever. So he will be talking at length about all the things that the administration has already done. But to your point, Errol, yes, they are constantly looking for other ways to try to bring down these costs. But the question is, you know, what more can they do? Because obviously they've already put a lot of effort into these drug prices, bringing them down in the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, I should say.
Yeah, you know, Weijia, it's interesting because analysts do note that the tools really are quite limited, in fact, when it comes to the economy here for the White House. Walk us through how else the White House is working to try to fight inflation in the wake of this latest report, because we know that Americans had been noticing prices at the pump, prices at the grocery store, things that are really affecting them in their pocketbooks. These are all things that, you know, the White House is trying to address, but in reality, analysts say, can only do so much with.
So the IRA is a huge chunk of the overall plan for the administration. But the problem is, you know, those things are going to take time, even though it has been passed into law. You know, when it comes to creating more new jobs, for example, on the clean energy front, when it comes to more of these things to bring down drug costs, you know, that's going to take time. And the question is whether people are willing to give the president and the administration time in order, you know, for them to feel the cuts, whether that will be in time before the midterm races, because of course we all know, as you've been reporting, that the economy is the biggest issue on the ballot. And so in terms of what he can do with regard to gas prices, because obviously the two are linked, and the reason, one of the biggest reasons we're seeing inflation is because of gas prices. You know, there are things that the president can do, but only to a certain extent. The administration has announced that next month they will be releasing 10 million more barrels of oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve in hopes to bring down the cost. But it's not like he could just turn on a button and increase oil production when we're talking about, you know, the global supply and demand. And so when it comes to gas prices, which are really the center of the problem here, there's not much more he can do that we can see. However, it should be noted that the president said he will have more to say on things that he hopes to do to bring down gas prices next week. So we will be covering that.
It's a great point to make, because I think that's why the president is out on this kind of message campaign, right? We're trying, we're passing things, we're pushing, but to your point, in reality, it takes time for folks to feel that in their pocketbooks.
Yeah, just weeks away from the midterm elections. All right, Weijia Jiang at her post on the North Lawn of the White House. Weijia, so wonderful to talk to you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Weijia.